the anniversary of the Phoenix Lights. Probably the most awesome display of strange technology flying over a major city, maybe in recorded history that we know. Huge event. It went on for hours. Went on and on.
At least since the L.A. 1940.
Well, that would have been my other thing. That was watched by more people, no question about that. That was one object. The Phoenix Lights were apparently several objects, one of which was, they're guessing, about a mile across. It's a huge story, but certainly the Battle of L.A., more people watched it, to be sure. I had a friend who was an air warden who saw the whole thing.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. She's passed on now, but she told me the whole story.
Wow. That's awesome. That's an incredible story.
Oh, she'd never forget. Looked me right in the eye. Told me the whole thing. Says it was the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. She was asleep. She got a call, and Air Raid Central, or whoever, called her, the wardens, and notified her, get your hat on, get outside. We may be under attack by the Japanese. And she lived in Culver City, and she went outside and looked up, and there was this incredible, she said it was kind of orange, the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen in the night sky. And as it moved a little further south, then they opened up on it and started shooting at it. And she described all that to me, and she said, I just stood there and watched it. I'm amazed. And she said, and it's totally true. There were airplanes up there, ours. She said, I watched them fly at this thing, wave after wave. There'd be 4 or 5 in a formation. They'd go at it, and she said their guns were shooting. And we think one of them was shot down by friendly fire, brought down somewhere in the northern part of L.A., but they went after this thing. They shot at it. Nothing they did. You don't hear that talked about, though, but she was there. She said, yeah.
No, it's actually the inspiration for George Powell's War of the Worlds, in which they were shooting at the alien aircraft and nothing was being hit.
Yeah.
And George Powell was actually in L.A. and probably saw it at the time.
I wouldn't be surprised. Gene Barry. That was a very fine film in its day.
It was a great film, actually.
It still is. Next to The Day the Earth Stood Still, the moral of The Day the Earth Stood Still is timeless, of course. And that's the only hope this planet has if something like that were to occur. An ultimatum. You either stop or you're toast. Simple. There was a story I ran yesterday about the Apollo photographs, and more people are getting onto this. It was so, and you were really one of the very first people to do this, and when I say to all of you listening, do this, Jay brought the story forward that it was a Stanley Kubrick production. There was too much riding on this whole thing, the Van Allen radiation belts and all the rest of it. It was all shot on the back lot on an enormous sound stage. Somewhere. Perhaps they had built one in Palmdale or Lancaster, I heard. I don't know where it was, but this was all staged, and that's why the video was so crappy in many cases, especially when the lunar module lifted off. It just looked like third-rate video, and they did that on purpose to obscure the fact that it was a model.
There's you actually posted an article by a Ukrainian physicist, Oleg Olenek.
Yes.
And he did 3D parallax viewing of the Apollo photographs.
Story. Wonderful story. That is the lock. That is irrefutable science. That's hard science.
It's in the casket. It's buried. Whatever cliches you want to come up with, the smoking gun. But anyway, folks, what he did, and just type in Oleg Olenek, and Jeff has the article up at his archives, and is that he took 2 photographs that were slightly apart from each other and then combined them. And what you do is you create parallax so you can look at the backgrounds, and when you jiggle the 2 separated photographs, say separated by a meter or so, the background should not move because it's far away, right? You understand what I mean? The background will not move, the foreground will. If the background moves, that means it's a lot closer to the foreground than we think, and that's exactly what happened. And Dr. Olenek, concluded that the astronauts were standing in front of a screen that was about 30 meters behind them. Exactly what I've been saying.
He did it. I'm going to pull that story and run it again for all of you who might have missed it.
it slipped by, I think.
Yeah,
and I think it's an important story.
It's a very one. I'm going to put it back up. There's so many stories that are important that I just wish.
What's interesting about this whole Stanley Kubrick thing is, one, his daughter is finally coming out, and she was estranged from Stanley. She's actually coming out to be quite a conspiracy theorist, which is interesting. Like daughter, like father, I guess.
Huh.
And another thing is the hottest screenplay in Hollywood right now is called 1969: A Space Odyssey, which is about the travails of Stanley going through faking the moon landings. He didn't do it in 1969.
Wait, are you saying there's a screenplay already written and it's being passed around? Has someone signed on for it?
Not yet. But it's considered the hottest screenplay, unsigned screenplay in Hollywood right now.
Wow.
And it better not be like my work, or I'll have to sue him.
Yeah, I'm saying you could have done something like that, and maybe in fact somebody took your work. Well,
also I think you posted this also. There's a rock and roll video, which is really well done by a group called Imagine Dragons, called On Top of the World, which is really funny. It's got Nixon and Kubrick, and so this thing is now, I think, gone beyond. If we can prove, and I think we can now, and I will in Kubrick's Odyssey 3, my new film, if we can prove that this is all fake, then they've been faking this stuff since at least the late 60s. And so this kind of just changes everything about all of reality since then. How many things have been faked since then? We're looking at Sandy Hook, we're looking at the Boston bombings, which are recent events.
Right.
But maybe we got to start going back and looking at a whole lot of other things.
No arguments here.
Yeah.
We're really looking at something now. I guess you could say this, no pun intended, the sky's the limit. It really can do anything. Look what they've done on Mars. Look how many years they told us that the Martian sky was this ugly, reddish brown. It's as blue as a blue sky over Florida.
It is. It has clouds.
Absolutely. And apparently around the equator, it's 75, 80 degrees in the summer, and there's life on Mars, and then it just goes on and on.
It is. The biggest bunch of... we have had the wool pulled so clearly over us that we don't even know what's going on. That's what I think you and I and people that are listening, what we're doing is we're like the blind man walking in the place where the furniture's been rearranged, trying to figure out what's going on around here.
You know what's really funny? As good as Kubrick is, I don't think he made a mistake. I think he left telltale signs in the video, in the photos, intentionally.
He did.
And the number one is when the lunar lander, the LEM, hit the soil and put down, there's no blast hole under it.
No.
None of that lunar dust even moved.
Because
it was put there by a crane.
There's actually photographs of the Lunar Rover sitting on the ground next to the module, obviously taken like through the window, and there's no tracks. I mean, behind the Lunar Rover, it just got plopped there.
That's
without
funny.
any. And this happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
And there's a very funny thing. One of the things that Stanley liked to do. In those days, we didn't have video, was he would take Polaroid photographs of the scenes to see if the lighting was correct. And so Stanley would run around the sets every day, making 2001 or Clockwork Orange or whatever, and shooting all these Polaroids. And then he'd be looking at them and rearranging the lights. Well, there's this hilarious shot in the Apollo archives of the lunar lander sitting there, and there on the flat leg of the lunar lander are two Polaroid photographs.
And
they're not curled up as they should be in a 250-degree heat. They're laying flat.
This is a formal NASA photograph, supposedly?
Yep, you can find it in the archives. It's just sitting there with two Polaroid photographs sitting.
If you find it, send it, will you? I'll put it up as a splash.
I will.
I'll put it up at the top of the homepage.
I mean, it's hilarious, man. Polaroid photographs would curl in seconds on the moon.
Too funny.
It is. What's funny is that we still believe that human beings could walk around in that environment. unprotected. And furthermore, if they did walk around in that environment unprotected or protected with only those suits, then maybe we ought to lend those suits or facsimiles of those suits to the people in Fukushima.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they're useless.
Of course they are.
Too funny. Well, I'd love to see that picture. I'll put it up.
I will get it for you.
It's time. It's time. You know, we're ready. We're ready. Let's think. Come on, just lay it out there.
Well, the millennials don't believe it at all. By the way, they're under 30s. They don't. I haven't met one yet that believes it.
Interesting. Funny. Stanley Kubrick, the man who created 2001, you kind of wonder if he made a deal, how the deal was made, the mechanics of it, when he was brought into it. Interesting. Any background on that, Jay?
Yeah, he was brought into it after Dr. Strangelove. They had visited. He'd sent the Pentagon the script because he wanted to film the B-52s, and they read the script and said no. And so he got pictures from Aviation Weekly, and with his set designer, they rebuilt the interior and the exterior of B-52s using photographs. The Air Force in, I think it was July of '63, maybe earlier than that, they got word of this, and they sent two people to England where he was filming to look at what he was doing. And he actually told people on the set that he may get arrested here. He wasn't sure what would happen. And they came on the set, and they were like completely blown away by the details. And and then when they saw the film in late '63, early '64, I think that and if you've ever seen the film, especially on the big screen, the scenes where the jet is flying over Siberia, which are done with front screen projection, are, for that time, they were jaw-dropping. I mean, it was like, even had smoke coming out of the motor, of the engines and everything. And they saw that, and they went, what? And and I think they knew by then that they couldn't actually get to the moon. Yeah, because Gus Grissom had placed the lemon on the Apollo capsule, and then a month and a half later he died, and he was telling his family that there was no way. This is '67. That there was no way that they were going to get to build. Has
the family substantiated that?
Oh yeah. Gus Grissom's wife and his children both said that he was disgusted and thinking of quitting, and so there's no way this was being run by a bunch of idiots. And there was another guy who actually, I forget his name now, he was the chief investigator of that incident where Gus Grissom and the other two astronauts died in Apollo 1. And he testified in front of the Congress saying that NASA and the Apollo program was completely could not do what they said they were doing.
A farce.
It was a farce. And then he died a few weeks later.
Oh, him too.
His plane his car got hit by a train.
Jesus, they kill people all the time.
And there's no doubt in my mind that he was killed. I mean,
they killed.
And there's a lot more bodies.
Too. Yeah.
And they did kill Gus Grissom and the rest of them. And, this is, the terror. All you have to really do is YouTube in the press conference for the Apollo 11 astronauts. And look at their faces.
They look like they've all been just sentenced to death.
Yeah, they look their dog just died.
Something.
And, something.
This all over their faces. I couldn't agree more. It's obvious.
Exactly.
Obvious.
This is the defining moment of their careers, of their life, of history itself.
The world is watching them lie through their teeth, carrying on a hoax that is so outrageous that they're beyond human. They couldn't cover it up. They were just too human.
Exactly. You can see on Neil Armstrong particularly. He doesn't want to lie. This guy just doesn't want to lie. No. He's looking down. He just doesn't want to say anything. This is why he didn't give any interviews for the rest of his life.
Look at that. Please do look at that, folks. YouTube video of the first Apollo crew to come back at press conference. It's really embarrassing. I mean, it's just embarrassing. The lie was so big that they really couldn't fake it that well. It was too much for them. I can't blame them. Then you know what else? Jay, I mean, you know this, but so many of the Apollo astronauts who allegedly went to the moon and all that kept really, when you think about it, low profiles.
Absolutely.
They just didn't talk much. And they to this day, they don't talk much.
No, I forget his name. I said Bert. I think it was Bert Savell. He actually got to Neil Armstrong's ranch in Ohio and knocked on the door. Neil Armstrong opened up the door, said, "What do you want?" And he said, "Did you really go to the moon?" And Neil just walked over to the phone and called the police. I mean, it wasn't even, there's no, he's not going to say anything. None of them are.